So I think it's really important to get user feedback because without it, you really don't know what your users and your customers want. A few feedback channels that I've used that have worked really well are first getting feedback from our sales team and from our entertainment relations heads. So both of those people and those teams are working directly with all of the users on our site. So on the sales side, they're working directly with customers and clients and event coordinators. And then our head of entertainment relations is working directly with all of the entertainers who are putting in quotes and bidding on events that the planners are putting on the site. So they're constantly getting feedback, whether they're even asking for it or not. They're getting feedback about what they'd like to see more of, what they think could be improved on the site. And so we were almost getting too much information. We really had to find a way to organize it because they're giving us so much information. We want to be able to listen and tell them, hey, we hear you. We're going to build that. So I'll talk a little bit later about what that pipeline looks like that we've built. But that's a very valuable way that we collect feedback is from our team directly communicating with those users. The second one would be through support emails. So we have a way that all users can contact support on the website. They can just email us and they can chat with us directly as well. And this is if they maybe don't have a direct relationship with somebody on our team, which is getting to be more and more frequent as we grow. And this just goes right to my inbox, honestly. At some point, I'm sure we'll have a full-time customer service type person who can deal with those really quickly. But it's great for me to just see what people are saying, if they're asking the same things that our sales team and entertainment relations person are hearing. And then a lot of times they are some of the best pieces of feedback that we're getting because they are logged in right then and there, putting in quotes or creating an event, and there's something that is right on a page that maybe we overlooked, or there's a new field that we could have added that we didn't think about. So it's great to just give them direct access to us to give feedback. Next, we have quarterly entertainer education sessions. So we gather and invite all of the entertainers on our platform to come hear what's new, hear some updates, what we've built in the past quarter that they can look forward to and expect to change within their experience. And also at the end, we always leave a lot of room for Q&A for them to either ask questions and really hear it from us how we expect them to use the service, or give us ideas of things that maybe we are not building or aren't in the pipeline. So that's another direct place that we give entertainers on our website access to us to be able to give us that feedback. And then we also will just run regular email surveys every once in a while. I would say this is probably the least frequent that we do, just because we do get so many people giving us that feedback. If we're really looking to change a big feature or maybe add something that is going to make a big change, we'd probably use that channel to get feedback and make sure that people are really aligned in what we think that they're going to want. But you can use email surveys about anything really, and really just to hear from your users and your customers about anything you want to change, big or small. So that's just a great way to kind of keep them involved, keep hearing from them if you maybe don't have a really long pipeline already. And then finally, we use analytics on the platform to just really see how users are behaving and see if it aligns with how we thought they would behave and how we assume they're going to behave. So they're not necessarily voluntarily giving us this information, but it's really great to see when somebody maybe gets stopped at a point where we thought would be really obvious for them to go through. Maybe it's just the sign up process. We think it should be fairly simple. It's just a sign up, and then you fill out your information, validate your email. We kind of have a process in our business that we always assume should be obvious, but we'll find that it's really not. It's somebody's first time ever coming to our site. Of course, they're not going to know the business and the product as well as we do. So a lot of times we make assumptions here, and by finding Google Analytics or tools like Hotjar, where you can actually track where people are on the website and following those analytics, you'll really find that maybe you were wrong in your assumptions, and you can see, oh, people are getting stopped at this page. We got to make this easier somehow. So some of the biggest features that we've built from feedback from our team have been, I'll talk about the event planner side first. One of the big ones was implementing a cutoff date for events. So I'll show here that within an event planner will create an event with all of their details. And a lot of times they need to pitch the acts that are applying to their client. So a lot of times a professional event planner or corporate event planner is gathering this information from our site in the offers tab, and they're picking their favorites and then presenting it to a different group or their end client. So they kind of need it in a certain amount of time. Let's say it's 3 days from when they created the event. So any quotes that come in after that point are really not going to be that valuable. So we allowed them to set a cutoff date, just kind of set, hey, we're no longer accepting applications and quotes for the specific event. We want to go ahead and pause incoming offers. That's this button here. They can just pause that, and that would mean that nobody sees it anymore if they haven't already put in a quote. So that's been really helpful to just stop too many notifications. Entertainers that would have applied to that event that don't have any chance of actually getting chosen, they don't have to go through that process either. So it kind of just saves everybody a lot of time and getting too many notifications. The other big feature there that we're still working on currently is for event coordinators to, like I said, they're a lot of times sharing that information with their clients or with their team, and they want us to build a really succinct way for them to download that information, and they can just take it, they can print it off, they can put it in their proposal with everything else a part of the event, say travel, catering, hotels, entertainment is just one piece of maybe everything that they're booking, and they want to add it to their full proposal. So we are determining whether that feature is something that we should just white label for them or charge extra for them to be able to either put their branding on it or just give them really easy access to share and download. So it's not quite finished yet, but what they will be able to do is pick the quotes that they're really interested in, and it'll basically download all of the information from that entertainer's profile. So videos, photos, the price point, how long they'd be performing for, their rider details, everything about that quote, they'll be able to download in a really easily shareable document. And on the entertainer side, they give us tons of feedback because they're honestly using the platform even more than the event coordinator because they're constantly putting in quotes. But something that we're currently building is the way for them to put in their rider needs. So right now they're only putting in a price point, how long they're playing, and if it's a musician, for example, if it's a full band, a duo, trio, solo, kind of how many people are going to be performing in that. And they're not able to add things like bottled water, parking, travel, if that is something involved. They're not able to expand on other things that they might need for each event. And not that every single event they might need to have those requests, but a lot of times they do. And especially if it's a longer event, they might need a meal. So just based on each event, they can add that line item and they can tell us and the event planner, hey, this quote also includes a meal or bottles of water, for example. They can add that in. So the client knows that they also need to provide that as well as pay for the thing in its entirety. Something else the entertainers have really been asking for is more communication during that event coordinator's decision-making process. So a lot of times an event coordinator, an event planner is creating an event, and then they're getting in all of these quotes, and then they're taking their time to decide, especially if the event is maybe a year away. They're a lot of times not making a decision in that first few weeks. So the entertainer is not, they're willing to hold that date for so long, but they just want to know, am I being considered? Where's kind of your head at as far as time frame? They just want more communication in that process because they don't see the other entertainers' quotes either. And they don't really communicate with them directly until that event planner has more questions or they have more information about the event. So they wanted to get more notifications about that process and when they are actually rejected and they did not get chosen for event, and maybe why. And sometimes the event planner might not be willing to say, or they don't take the time to give us that feedback, but they at least kind of want to know, are they in the top 3? Are they not being considered at all? So we're adding notifications for them along the way, as well as giving the event planner the ability to hide and delete quotes that they're not interested in. So that information can be shared with that entertainer so they know they don't have to hold that date. They're actually not being considered, so they can move on and get booked somewhere else. And finally, a really big thing for entertainers that is going to make a huge difference that we've collected feedback from them and from the entertainment relations head specifically is that they really want a way to better categorize their events. So right now, this is what it looks like when they are just on their events dashboard. It's just all of the events listed in one page, and they could be listed by the closest date or when they were created, but they're not listed by if you've already quoted, if you've taken a look at this event and realized you weren't available so you don't want to quote, or ones that you've never opened before. So that's what we're doing, is going to let them categorize the events based on how interested they are or if they've already seen it. And then also if they're not available or interested in any events, they can hide and delete those as well. So they don't have to keep wondering which event is which, because it can get really overwhelming. We get about 5 support emails a week, and probably only 20% of those are asking for new features and asking specifically, hey, this is what I'd love to see on my profile. I'd love to be able to do XYZ as a user. And then the rest of the time it is kind of simple requests of, I'd like to change my email or help me log in. So here is an example of a support message we received with somebody asking about building a new feature. So this person wants to be able to filter events by budget, and if you click one, that it just opens in a new tab. Those are things that we've not thought about before, and we're definitely not in the pipeline. So it's always interesting to kind of see and hear from users what they're looking for in that regard. I did let this person know that we are changing the way that events are filtered by whether you've put in a quote or not seen the event yet. So he was really excited to see that that's already in the works, and it is probably going to be a pretty easy thing to implement what he's asking, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go to the top of the list of priorities just because somebody asked for it. Although I usually will prioritize features coming directly from an existing user over things that we assume that they're going to want to see. But just because one person has a problem doesn't always mean it's an issue for everybody either. So I do like to hear things a few times from users before just fully building something from one person, or really understanding better what they mean, what they like, why they have that problem, before just putting it at the top of the priority list. But something like this is a pretty easy fix, and I could see, why it could be beneficial for other users. So certainly having events open in a new tab, that could be a pretty easy fix. Now, this person wasn't aware that they actually could have a minimum budget in their profile. So I educated them that they don't even have to filter events by budget if they just go into their profile and put in a minimum. So that way they're never going to see events that are below their price point, and there won't be any need to filter them. So He was super excited to hear that. He just wasn't aware that that was a feature that he had access to. And I find a lot of times in these support messages that they are asking for things that maybe already are built or they are in the pipeline already. And I'm just kind of pointing people in the right direction. When I get a support message like this, a lot of times I am fairly overwhelmed or worried instantly just because this person is saying they've not had a good experience. They're using words like cumbersome, and that's not how we want to be associated, and we always want every user to have a really good experience. So sometimes I freak out a little bit from reading support emails, but pretty much every time when you kind of open that line of communication and make them feel that they've been heard, it goes great. No one is ever upset after you kind of let them know that, hey, I'm a person reading this. I'm going to prioritize your needs. I care about what you have to say. They're thrilled most of the time. I think a lot of times they think maybe no one's actually going to read these messages, or maybe it's going to go to a bot, or they're going to get sent an article. But we read all of our support messages and respond to all of them still. So a lot of our users really do like that. Here is an example of somebody just looking to access their profile. A lot of messages are like this. They need something just pretty easy and basic, like their username, their password, something like that. And that's super easy to get to them. Here's another example of somebody just wanting to switch their email. It was going to a different email that they had, and they just wanted to update that. So super easy fix. Here is a support email of somebody checking in on their profile being activated. They created another profile. They want a different type of offering, so they created another profile. We're just checking to see what the status is on that. A lot of times we are looking for extra content from somebody, and that's why we can't approve them within 5 days or so. Maybe they are missing video or photo or links to socials, and we really want that profile to be really robust. So we'll ask them to kind of complete it before we can send it live. And sometimes people are just wondering, what's the status on that? So getting feedback from the entertainer education sessions is really important for us because, like I mentioned, that's a really great direct way for them to provide feedback to us right then and there, and also hear what we're working on, or if we are working on it already, we can tell them, hey, actually great call. Somebody mentioned that last time. It's already in the pipeline, or we hadn't thought of that. Let's put it in there right now. It's kind of like an instant solution. They don't have to wait for an email back or wait to hear if we are working on it. So I love having those. It's been really great to also just have them hear from us that we are listening. We do want to build the things that they're suggesting, and I think they really care. It helps them know that we care for them and that they care about our company, and they are willing to be a little more patient as we're growing and as we're building these things. I would say there's about anywhere from 30 to 60 entertainers on the call. We have one per quarter for everybody, and then Jesse, our head of entertainment relations, will do smaller, more specific town hall sessions for entertainers, maybe in certain cities, or if they're brand new, or if they're maybe speakers versus musicians. She'll kind of have more different types of more smaller intimate groups, but when everybody's invited, that once a quarter, anywhere from 30 to 60 is how many we can kind of expect. And it's great because they are all really active and everybody's on video. Everybody's really talkative and has a ton of questions. So we're really lucky that everyone's super engaged and wants to participate, because it is such a great way to get that feedback. One of the pieces of feedback that we have implemented from an entertainer education session is adding the field to the event card of whether it is inside or outside. So pretty easy for us to build. All we had to do is just implement that within the event planner's details that they're filling out, just that it's inside or outside. And why it really mattered to entertainers is they oftentimes have to bring their own sound system if it's a musician, and they're bringing different sound systems based on if it's inside or outside, because outside sound carries, they have to bring something louder a lot of the time. They also, same thing for the size room. That's something we implemented as well with that feedback. If it's a big ballroom, if it's kind of a smaller, intimate conference room, those things are really going to affect the type of sound system that they're going to need to bring. And as well as you can kind of gauge that for the audience too. If they know how many people are going to be in attendance, they can kind of gauge what size the room could be, and they'll know exactly what they need to bring sound wise, so they know it'll be loud enough. So this is our event survey that we send to corporate and private event planners after their event to really get a feel for how that entertainer did and how their experience was using us. So we'll just ask who they are, what they do, who they booked, a rating 1 through 5, a testimonial if they'd like to include specifics, and then just a testimonial about EVA. So we try to keep it super, super brief. And we actually used to have a much longer review process, but nobody was taking the time to give us any feedback. So we tried to shorten it a lot. And a lot of times it does take quite a bit of prompting to get somebody to give us this feedback. A lot of times if their experience was good, they don't necessarily feel the need to go write a review. And if it was bad, we'll usually know before they even get this email that they had a bad experience. So we're still definitely trying to figure out how we can get more responses here, but this goes out in an email to them the day after their event. We can look at just a few responses. So here's somebody giving their information and telling a little bit about their experience. They booked a band, gave a really great testimonial, and really gave a lot of detail about that artist as well. And then they also answered why they liked working with EVA. So it's really great to hear good feedback, of course. It's really great to know what we did well, what the act did well. And then it's just as valuable if we were to get 1-star or poor reviews too, because we always want to know how to improve. But giving that person the space to give us that feedback after their event is always going to be really valuable. We have always been big fans of using different types of analytics tools to really track users' behavior and find out even more about how they're using the platform, because it's great when they do give you feedback and they actually tell you what they want and what they're missing, but a lot of times they're not going to take the time to tell you. They're just going to leave and they're not going to be satisfied. They're not going to tell you why. You're just going to lose a customer or a user. So these are tools to kind of get that insight from those people that never were going to give you that feedback personally. And some tools we really love are just Google Analytics, and LogRocket is another one that we like a lot. And it's just super helpful to actually see the data of how many people are using your website, where they're falling off, what pages they're clicking on, and why or why not they aren't converting. That's a huge thing that we've realized, is that we are kind of missing an opportunity of a lot of people getting to our site, but maybe not signing up, or maybe they're signing up, but maybe they're not creating an event, or maybe they're not creating an entertainer profile. So we use these tools to really make it, to just be really informed, and then make it obvious internally with the team of knowing like, hey, this is what's going on. This is why somebody's maybe not converting. Even if that's an assumption, we have to try something because people are falling off. So it's just great to just know instead of always guessing how people are going to use your site. So here's our Google Analytics. For example, we can kind of see our users versus new users, different events that they're doing, meaning different actions that they're taking, the amount of time that they're spending on the site. And you can even break it down by what pages they're spending more time on, where they're located, how many active users we have at one time. And it's just really powerful information to kind of know this and get really in the weeds on your analytics. something even further that LogRocket will help us do is it will record user behavior on your website. So it's kind of creepy, but it's really helpful to know why a certain individual is acting a certain way and exactly what they're doing, where they're clicking, instead of just assuming. So let's take a look at this user's behavior. So this is a client of ours. It looks like they've created an event, and now a few days after, they're looking at the quotes that have come in. So they're actually literally just browsing through all of the quotes. They can see the different price points. They can see how long each person has submitted a quote for, and then they can go to that profile and actually see videos, links to socials, get a really good feel for how each entertainer might fit their event best. So it's just really cool to, in this case, see that this person is using the site like we hope, and they're actually spending a good bit of time on this person's profile. They're really like checking them out and inquiring that, hey, this might be a good fit, or maybe they're realizing this is not the good fit and I want to make sure. So now they're going to go back, probably look at the other quotes, maybe look at some other, look, she's looking at the price point. You can even see where her mouse is hovering. She's looking at when those quotes expire. So it's really kind of neat to see how this person's behavior is informed by the information that they're presented. And this person specifically had a really long session here. They're really taking their time to go over the quotes that came in. So something that we did find through analytics was that people were browsing entertainment and not really necessarily clicking into any profiles. It seemed like by watching these videos that maybe they were overwhelmed with the amount of entertainers on a page, which totally makes sense because I'm just here on our roster. You can see it's a list of entertainers that goes on and on and on. And this is great, and maybe somebody catches your eye and you'll want to go in, but also it shows that you have 83 pages that you can go through, and there's no way anyone's taking the time to go through every page. So while we do really want to make it obvious that they can use this filter here to filter by musicians, speakers, or variety entertainers, and even by city, by band setup, by type of music, they can use these filters. Even that, sometimes they don't necessarily know what they're looking for, so it doesn't help to bring them those types of options if they kind of just want to see like really cool things in their city. So something that we did to hopefully fix that was we implemented kind of just a previous page, a pre-page before when they click this entertainment button. It doesn't go straight to the roster and just let them go crazy. It really explains why they should even be on that page at all. And then it explains that, hey, if you actually have an event and you know exactly what you're looking for, best option would be to sign up and create an event. But if not, go ahead and browse by these different categories. Like you want to look at singer-songwriters, you want to look at DJs, you want to look at dancers, speakers, comedians, kind of giving them some ideas of how to browse before just throwing them into a pool of thousands of profiles and hoping that they're going to find what they need. That is something we realized they might be really overwhelmed in doing. And by adding this page here, hopefully really kind of breaks it down for them and gives them less options to choose from. Sometimes there are features that we're building not knowing if it's going to work. For sure, it's kind of, we're testing it out. We might have to keep iterating on the solution. Sometimes it's much easier, and we're like, oh, a person, like one I mentioned before, they want to know if the event is inside or outside. The solution to that is tell the planner they have to tell us. Give them the option of inside or outside, and it's a mandatory choice they have to make. So now everybody's in the know. That's super easy. They're not always that easy. Sometimes there are just solutions that are kind of a guess, and we're gonna totally just try something out. The price point, changing up the price point and how they're displayed to each user type is a total example. Like we're still figuring out if this is the best solution. I think it is, just because the number of complaints has gone way down and the confusion has gone way down. A lot of times, if we change something and it was a mistake, we did it the wrong way, we will hear pretty much instantly within the first day from multiple users that, what is this? I don't like this. Why did you change this? And we'll usually change it pretty much immediately if we realize, oh, wait, we didn't think of that. Of course, they're going to use it like this. That's definitely happened before. So we still, again, we rely on user feedback in all channels to see if what we've built works after it's gone live.